Now, welcome again as we get into in-depth understanding of the feeding of the 5,000 people. Now, this is a miracle in itself that one person with a few feeds food that was carried by a young boy, whether he was hawking or it was his own food, but again, it was not his own food because one young boy cannot eat five loaves of bread and two pieces of fish. So it is clearly to understand that this was actually his own business, and he was selling them because people were going to listen to the wisdom of Jesus Christ. Now, at this point, now we see Jesus feeding the 5,000 people. Now, besides understanding this as a miracle that of feeding people, now there's a miracle of voice also. How we could speak to people without shouting and the last person could hear and understand. Well, that is a story of another day. But there is something very interesting that is coming up in now John chapter 6, verse 4 to 5, and I had captured in the audio at some point, which I'll put it across here. And this is what the audio says, or that verse says.
Then Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming toward him, he said to Philip, Where shall we buy bread, that these may eat?
Thank you. So when you look at that audio now, we're going to discuss much about it, about especially on this item of today. However, there is something that is coming out very clearly, which I want you to go and study and meditate upon it and think very critically. John is telling us that he's reminding us that during this time, or at this point where the 5,000 people are being fed by Jesus Christ, the Passover was drawing near. Now, when you look at this very clearly, it is the first time the multitude of people are being fed. Now, it takes us back that the Jews understood that the Passover is an activity which is historical and sacred to the children of Israel. Now, it reminds them that during the Passover, that is the time when Moses was delivering them out of Egypt. And at that moment, there was the sacrificial lamb and also the feeding of the multitude of people in their own families. And now we are seeing also it is a signature of deliverance of the children of Israel, because now tomorrow, after the Passover, then they will be delivered into the freedom or out of slavery. And now here it's a signification that within this concept of feeding towards the Passover, then now we are getting towards deliverance, and the deliverer, who is similar to Moses, is here with us. And so it required spiritual understanding for them to know that what is going on here is a prelude to deliverance, and Jesus is the deliverer. And that is exactly what John is telling us, that we don't look at the miracle of the feeding, but the miracle of the deliverer within us. Now, in the feeding of the 5,000 people, there are several numerous parallels of Jesus Christ with Moses between the two of them. Both of them were actually leaders and persons who delivered the people within their own time. And we look at Moses of Exodus. Now, the time of the Passover, that is as explained in John chapter 6, verse 4, points to the great deliverance from Egypt. Jesus goes up on a mountain, that is John chapter 6, verse 3. As Moses went up to Mount Sinai, also Jesus tests Philip, John chapter 6, verses 5 to 6, as the Israelites were tested in the wilderness. The multiplication of the loaves, that is John chapter 6, verse 11, is a reminiscent of the manna. The gathering of the leftover food, John chapter 6, verse 12, harks back to the Israelites gathering the manna. Now, 12 baskets of leftovers are picked up. That is John chapter 6, verse 13. The same number as the 12 tribes of Israel, and the people comment that Jesus is the prophet coming into the world. That is John chapter 6, verse 14. Now, it's parallel to the prophet like Moses predicted in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15. All of these points to Jesus as the new Moses come to deliver his people. And all of these things have been manifested in the eyes of the Pharisees and the scribes, and still they don't see, but the only thing they want to do is to kill him or eliminate him. Thus, John is showing Jesus not only doing signs and wonders, but doing signs and wonders that in their context, in their own context, the Jewish context, should have had special meaning for the Jewish people. Jesus was pointing them in essence to his own divinity as God. And up to this day, they still don't want to see the divinity of Jesus Christ. The question that we have is this. With reference to the book of Isaiah chapter 53 verses 4 and 6, which is in Torah, 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 22, and Peter was an apostle sent to the Jews themselves, the seed of the Israel. What great truth do these texts teach about Jesus as the Lamb of God? How does his divinity tie into this truth, and why is this truth the most important truth we can ever know? Study the lesson and study what we have talked about today, and fill it into the spaces underneath where you have been provided. We can put a comment and let us interact together through these studies. Shalom and God bless you as we get into the next lesson study.